So I'm delighted to say joining us once again on the We Are West Ham podcast is Head of Sport at The Sun, Shaun Custis, big Newcastle fan as well. Shaun, it was only 2 months ago that we had you on the show for the very first time ahead of that 1-1 draw at St James's Park. Bit of a drab affair.
Yeah, well, I did predict it, Will. I did predict it would be a drab affair, and it was.
You did. I think you predicted a 1-0 Newcastle win, in fact. Not quite.
Yeah, you surpassed yourself. You got a draw.
Exactly. You were too busy at the time, I think, looking forward to your big day out at Wembley, you and all the rest of the Newcastle fans. You ended up enjoying yourself wholeheartedly in London. So I understand, despite the 2-0 defeat in the Carabao Cup final to Man United.
No, I didn't really. A lot of my fellow Toon fans did for some reason, but I was only interested in the win. Yeah, okay, it's a day out. We hadn't had one of those for some time, but I'm afraid I've seen too many of those failures at Wembley now, 98, 99, and on TV in 74 and 76. So this time I wasn't interested in a happy day out. I just wanted a win. And lots of patronising people have since said to me, oh, don't worry about it. You'll win one day. But I'd heard that before as well. And it never happened. So, no, only wins will do. Thanks, Will.
Am I included in that group of patronising people?
Yeah, you will. Yeah. I think you said it as well. Yeah, definitely. So, Andy Dillon on our paper said to me about the FA Cup final when you lost to Liverpool, when you should have won it, that he'd had a lovely day out in Cardiff, and I absolutely slaughtered him. What do you mean you had a lovely day out? You lost, you had the FA Cup in your hand, and you dropped it. And he did ask me if I'd had a lovely day out at Wembley, and I did explode slightly.
Yeah, well, anyone who saw the April Fool article in the Sun on April Fool's Day, funnily enough, would have noted and probably had a smile at the comment in there from the fake Newcastle fan group. Trophies don't matter. Apparently, you're one of the few that they do matter to. Shaun, so based on your stance around the and your general zero tolerance for the words that come out around the Carabao Cup final, such as you had a lovely day, were you equally dissatisfied to hear questions around, was that about revenge when you beat Manchester United so ably in the Premier League 2-0 at St James's Park on Sunday?
No, not really. I mean, look, there was a sense that we were being driven on by what happened that day, but also that we just want to prove that we are worthy of a top 4 spot. So I think it was a double thing, really, double whammy for us. We'd been in good form, Man United up and down, and there was a genuine feeling among Newcastle fans that we did have the better team and that we could beat them. And actually carrying it out and doing it there is a certain satisfaction in that, but I would still have swapped that win for the Carabao Cup any day of the week. Even if that win would get us into the top, would guarantee get us in the top 4, I'd still swap it for the Carabao Cup. So it was tinged with a slight what-ifness about it. What if we'd done that at Wembley? Because we didn't play that well at Wembley. We didn't lay a glove on Man United, really. I think we had one shot which De Gea saved. This was so much better, so much more comprehensive. People say, well, you were at home. I don't really go for that these days. I think teams aren't particularly daunted by playing away, playing on neutral grounds. I think they play pretty much the same way, however, whether they're home or away these days. It's not like it was 30 years ago, I don't think. And for me, that was a much improved performance on the Carabao Cup display. Much, much better.
Yeah, reasons for positivity. So it hasn't exactly assuaged your pain of the Carabao
No, not
Cup.
quite.
Not quite. Like I say, you mentioned it there, put you into 3rd position, level on points with Man United, better goal difference. Callum Wilson spoke after the game about the importance of carrying on the momentum you had before the international break. It seems you've done that. Is there a real belief, obviously, among the squad and the players, but among Newcastle fans, yourself included as well, that although, the party line seems to be that, or certainly from neutrals and pundits, that it might be a little bit too early or success is coming too soon. Is there a belief that you can sustain it and finish in the top 4, or is it just any European place is still going to be a mark of success?
No, No, I think there is a belief we can finish in the top four. Not just because Newcastle have started to play well and hit a bit of form, but also because of the mess which is Tottenham, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs. Oh, sorry, I've mentioned Spurs. They're not putting together runs. They're not suggesting they've got anything sorted out amongst themselves. So we're benefiting from that. There's no doubt about it. But we are hitting form at a good time. I feel it would be a failure now if we didn't make the top four. I think that's the
Really?
mood we're now in. Yeah, that's the mood we're now in, especially with. As of today, when we're recording this podcast, who knows tomorrow? Chelsea don't have a manager. Tottenham don't have a manager. Jurgen Klopp's talking today about he's quite surprised that he still is the manager, given some of the difficulties he's been through. And remarkably, Erik ten Hag is the 9th longest serving manager in the Premier League. That just shows you what's going on in the Premier League this season. It's amazing. Eddie Howe will be getting a long service medal soon. He is putting together, though, a team that is capable of mixing it with the top sides. And we are now genuinely disappointed when we lose to anybody. Previously, it used to be, you've got to accept that it's Man City or it's Man United or it's Liverpool or it's Chelsea, and we just beat teams lower than us. But nowadays, we feel we can beat anybody, I think, including West Ham, Will.
Yeah, quite well. You haven't managed to so far this season, fortunately. But, 3 defeats all season is staggering. Only Arsenal at the top of the table can equal that record. Obviously, it's the 11 draws in there that have hampered you somewhat. That is more than twice any other team in the top 6 at the moment. And Brighton are on sitting on 7 draws there. You're on 11. So it's that's held you back somewhat. West Ham, obviously, the return fixture being one of those. This one been postponed because of the Queen's death. I believe it was supposed to be played in the first half of the season, obviously. So it's wedged in a busy way. It's a busy week for West Ham and for Newcastle as well. Eddie Howe spoke about it after the game, both in the dressing room, the footage that was beamed out across Sky Sports, and in his post-match interviews about, there was already a focus. I know that's a bit of a trademark sign of the top teams. It's always the generic line wheeled out after any good performance is, we focus on the next one, etc., etc. That was the sort of rhetoric coming out of Eddie Howe after the game. It's West Ham first and foremost for Newcastle. I believe your next 3 games, are away from home. You've got, obviously West Ham this week, then away to Brentford and away to Aston Villa takes you up to the 15th of April. Is there any sort of fear that, around squad depth, or that perhaps the fitness levels might suffer, or there might be fatigue creep in, or, whereas other teams...
Really, because actually Callum Wilson, who was struggling with injury, has now come back and is starting to get fit again, scored 2 in 2 games. Isaac has started to hit form. He'd been out for a long time. So it's not that they would be tired, those 2 strikers. They've had enough time out through injury, so that's okay. Bruno's back and in great form in central midfield. Longstaff playing very well. And we have Willock, who wasn't always starting games. Joe Willock now is getting a regular run and being talked of as a possible England player. Murphy on the wing, who's been a bit part, is starting to play more of a part now. So I actually think that the strength in depth is looking better than it did. We look in very good shape for the run-in. I've rarely been this optimistic, but it will be a surprise if we mess it up. Newcastle, trust me, are capable of messing up at all sorts of times. But just for once, it feels like it may be a smooth run-in with players all fit. You can never guarantee it, but it does feel like that at the moment.
No sort of no other distractions, I guess, anymore. Now you've, like you say, your big day out unfortunately ended in defeat, but there does seem to be an inescapable feel-good factor. I think most West Ham fans looking ahead to the game Wednesday night we certainly said on the podcast last week ahead of the Southampton game at the weekend, which we limped through, but got the 3 points we needed for this Newcastle game. Then we go to Fulham in the Premier League on Saturday. The idea, certainly on this podcast, I said 4 points from that will be acceptable as far as staying up goes. James wanted 5. I think that might be a bit of a tall ask. I think most West Ham fans are kind of begrudgingly accepting a defeat on Wednesday because Newcastle are playing so well. What's going to be the approach from Eddie Howe? Are you any different in away games? You mentioned already that you don't think there's too much different. What will be the approach?
I don't think there is any different approach. I think when you get into the groove like we're getting into now, I think the approach is just keep playing the same way, with obviously the odd tweaks. Do you start with Isaac? Do you start with Wilson? Do you maybe sometimes start with the two of them, which would be an interesting one as well. I honestly believe teams are a bit past that. We'll play really defensively away from home and we'll attack at home. I don't feel Newcastle can do that now.
No.
It's got to be get on the front foot all the time. And if we can go at West Ham early, I feel there'll be a nervousness around your ground, because for all you beat Southampton, there's still a lot of edginess there. It doesn't take much for West Ham fans to get on the manager's back, does it? If you're honest, and 20 minutes to get them getting a bit angsty will benefit Newcastle a lot, I would say.
Yeah, I think obviously 3 points against Southampton, good for the league position, and a much needed 3 points as far as our survival campaign goes. My focus still wholeheartedly on the Europa Conference Leagues. I feel like if we should be able to win that. It's an easy word to say, given the teams that are in it. That gives us a platform next season to qualify for the Europa League, and then all of a sudden, then it's a bit easier to maybe hold on to some players or attract some players in the summer. If you got European football, and it's not such a big reset as it would be if we crashed out of that and finished 15th or 16th.
Well, you were telling me you were all booked up, weren't you? You're all booked up for the final already, aren't you? Well, you did. You said that.
Well, I've got the days off work. Yeah, I'm not quite confident enough to actually spend out any money on the flights just yet. But yeah, that's sort of where all my hopes lie for the season. But as you mentioned there, the win over Southampton on weekend, I've spoken about it with Jonesy on the podcast this week already. It was hardly like fans were skipping out of the London Stadium. We've just about beaten a team. We relied on a set piece and a fortunate VAR decision to beat a team who are rock bottom of the table at home and who are almost certainly going down. So it's hardly like that sort of washed away all of the woes from this season. Is there a sense that among Newcastle fans that it doesn't really matter who you're playing? Is there all West Ham a week, or like you say, you sort of feel you should beat anyone?
I still wouldn't feel too confident to beat Man City or Arsenal, but at least these days you think it's possible, whereas before we'd almost given it up. No, it's a great place to be at the moment. If we can strengthen a little bit more in the summer, weirdly, most Newcastle fans feel we've got to strengthen in defence, even though our defensive record is actually superb this season. We do know deep down that there are better defenders out there who could probably help us when it comes to European competition. Not so much defensively. I think it's from bringing the ball out, from creating attacks. Yes, Trippier does it very well on the one side, but possibly in central defence we don't do that so well. So that would be an area. Maybe another midfield player. Joe Linton, for instance, has done very well, but I can't see him being the man for top level European football. No. And Saint-Maximin is one of those players where if he can get himself into a consistent run of form, he could be the sort of player who could really flourish next season. Equally, he might be one who fades out a bit. He's a very unusual sort of player who's capable of great things, but at other times goes missing. You need consistency out of all your players if you're going into for what we want to challenge for next season, and he's certainly not that. Consistent isn't his thing.
No, it's just strange. Obviously, popping up with the assist with the headed assist yesterday, but he was sort of the poster boy of Newcastle days of the past, wasn't he? But showed it in flashes, maybe a bit of inconsistency.
Yeah, and he ended up on the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is a strange one, but 19 goals conceded is the lowest in the Premier League this season by some way. Manchester City next best with 26. That is a staggering defensive record, but just proven to be hard to beat. So how do you see the game style-wise, first of all? I think you'll be there at London Stadium on Wednesday. How do you see it playing out?
I actually feel we're going to play with a bit of freedom. We take a lot of confidence from that Manchester United victory. Yeah, Manchester United weren't particularly brilliant, but we didn't allow them to be. We learned a bit from that Carabao Cup defeat, and we got at them. And I think we're going to do the same to West Ham. I really feel the best way for Newcastle to play nowadays is to get on the front foot from the start, and it is probably with some maximum trying to get at the opposition, Willock trying to get at the opposition, Bruno putting those passes through the middle. It's a positive way of playing, and I would guess you'll be up against it, which is something to be saying when Newcastle fan that we're really going to put you under it, and I'm expecting victory.
Yeah, I can see you doing your very best to suppress that smile of confidence. But yeah, I mean, seasons past, last season particularly, that would have been a sort of music to David Moyes' ears. I think that the teams were going to come at us. He prides himself on sitting back and counter-attacking. The bit he seems to have mastered this season is the sitting back. It's just the hitting back at teams on attack that he's been struggling with. Somewhat real sort of struggle and a bit of a grim state of affairs. Just 7 wins from 27 for West Ham this season. Sounds like you're difficult to beat, but give us appreciate you joining us on the show again, Shaun. Just before we let you go, give us a score prediction then. London Stadium, Wednesday night, West Ham v Newcastle in the Premier League.
2-0 to Newcastle.
2-0 to Newcastle. You went 1-0 last time and it ended up being 1-1. So, yeah, I've got a feeling you will nick it, to be quite honest. 2-0. It's a bit confident. I think it might be a 2-1. We might nick one, but I can't see us winning the game, unfortunately. I'm not technically allowed to bet against West Ham or guess against West Ham in this podcast. I always just say 0-0 when I assume we're going to lose. But, Shaun, really appreciate you giving us your time on the show again. Shaun Custis, head of sport at the Sun. You hear him on Talk Sport as well on the press box on Monday nights, all round. Sports journalist extraordinaire and big Newcastle fan. Thanks for joining us on the show, Shaun.